What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Start With Today podcast. My name is Jeff Schaefer, and I'm so excited that you decided to tune in today. For those of you who don't know, Start With Today was founded upon the idea that we can't go back and change our past. We can't look forward into the future and predict exactly what's to come and know every single step that we'll face along the way. But what we can do is take each day as a gift, enjoy the people God's placed in our lives, enjoy every moment, and most of all, take advantage of every opportunity He gives us. I can't wait to dive into today's episode. I hope it speaks to you, I hope it encourages you, and I hope you'll join us next week. So with that being said, let's jump in and let's start with today. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Start With Today podcast. I'm so excited you decided to join me today on episode 8. Today's episode comes at kind of a weird time in our country, honestly a dark time, a sad time. What's been going on the past week is surreal. I think that it's necessary, the protests and obviously the violence I don't think is necessary, but the protests, people standing up for what they believe in, it's very much needed. Our country needs to change, and it needs to change quickly. And, you know, my goal when I started this podcast was to spread positivity, to spread encouragement. And so that's what I want to do. I hope today's episode will give you something to help you with, you know, your own goals, or maybe something you're working through in your life right now. And I truly think that you'll get something out of this, because I know even as I was planning it and kind of thinking about what I wanted to discuss, I actually learned a lot, and I was able to reflect on some things in my life. And so I'm hoping that in this dark, weird time in our lives that this episode, or, you know, these next 15 minutes will hopefully encourage you or inspire you to, you know, maybe change course or to challenge yourself a little bit. So before I dive into the content today and what I want to discuss, I have a question. And it's kind of a silly question, I guess, but also you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. How many times growing up did you hear your parents or your teachers tell you that patience is a virtue? I could probably name 10, 15 individuals off the top of my head that I remember from my childhood who had said this phrase to me, who, you know, constantly were telling me about the importance of patience and what it means to be patient and what the benefits are. If you're like me, you know, you heard it a lot. But what these people, these leaders, parents, teachers, whoever, what I feel like they left out was that patience is much easier said than done. You know, most of you listening to this are, you know, late in high school or in college or maybe out of college. And so by now you know that patience is not easy. In fact, it's anything but. I think patience is right up there with forgiveness. It's pretty hard. It's something that's not easy to demonstrate, and sometimes it's harder than others. And so I found myself lacking patience in almost every aspect of my life at some point. You know, and I don't mean that now like every aspect of my life I'm impatient, but at some point, you know, whether it be with school, a job, relationships, my mental health, my physical fitness, whatever it may be, at some point I've grown impatient in that avenue of my life. And so I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure that somebody out there, or one of you, if not all of you, have at one point been impatient in one specific aspect of your life. And so as I kind of broke this down, it was journaling and thinking about experiences I've had, I came up with 3 reasons for impatience in our lives. And the third one that I'm going to share is actually kind of the main point of this episode. But I want to discuss the other 2 because I think they're important, and I think they're very, very relatable, even though they're not fun to think about and we don't want to acknowledge them. I think they are very true. So the first one that came to my mind, and this is something that I've been very frustrated with at different points in my life, even recently, you know, kind of going into the summer. And that is that God doesn't come through when we want Him to. We get angry, we're impatient when we pray, when we ask God for something, and He doesn't come through when we want Him to. A lot of us have hopes and expectations of how God's going to, or how we think he's supposed to answer our prayers or show up in our lives when we need him. And we all know that he doesn't have to do that, but still, we're human. We sometimes think we know better, which is very funny and ironic to me, but I'm guilty of it, and sometimes I still do. And it's hard. We lose patience with God sometimes. I'll give you a short story kind of going into this summer. Before this whole coronavirus thing happened, I was going to be interning at Frontier Airlines in Colorado. I had made it through, I was fortunate enough to make it through all the interviews. And actually after, I found out the program was suspended, they reached out to me and said, your interview went really well, and I'm really sorry the program was canceled because we were looking forward to having you. And that was tough. So at that point, I had no job. Up until literally the day I finished finals, I had no job for the summer, no internship, no paid position. And I really didn't know what I was going to do because I needed to have some form of income, obviously. And, I prayed and prayed and prayed, and it's like, God, I need something. I need something. And ironically enough, I got a job and an internship. And it's funny how it worked out. My job, I'm actually working for my dad, who's a real estate agent, and I'm handling some finances for him as well as doing some internal sales. But then the internship I got, which is going to give me the experience I need going into next summer, as well as going into the job force after college, is with one church in Columbus. And it is not a paid position, but it's funny because I wouldn't want to intern anywhere else. And I was so frustrated, and I was getting angry with God because I'm like, God, I know that you have something for me. I know that you're going to come through, but where is it? Clock's ticking. Because he wasn't showing up the way I wanted him to, and he wasn't showing up exactly when I wanted to. But boy, when he came through, was he on time? And was it the best thing that could have happened to me? And so sometimes I think that patience, that lack of patience rather, needs to turn into faith. Instead of not being patient, we need to have more faith and know that, okay, you know what? This isn't going how I want it to. I don't think it's going to look how I want it to, but I'm going to have faith that God's going to show up on time, and he's going to provide me with exactly what I need going into this next stage of life. And I think when you truly do that, you'll see that patience becomes much more easier. So with that being said, I want to transition into the second reason for impatience. And this is one that I've struggled with a lot in the past, but I think now still do sometimes. Not on purpose, but I just catch myself sometimes doing this. And that's that I start to lose patience in my own situation when I'm not seeing progress as quickly as some of my peers or my family members or my friends. And this honestly just stems from jealousy, right? Like, I'm not jealous. I'm not, oh my gosh, like I want to be this person or I want what they have. But it's like, man, like I really wish my situation was working out. I wish that I was able to go to this place or get that job. And although we don't think of that as being jealous and we're just, wishing, that is a form of jealousy. Instead of just being happy and full of gratitude for these people, we become impatient in our own process, in our own pursuit of our goals because it's not progressing as fast as someone else. And, as much as we'd love to say, oh, I want to see everybody win, I want to see, internally, less than 15% of us probably mean that. I'm guilty. At some point in your life, you've been jealous or internally just been kind of like, man, why not me? God, why not me? Why am I not moving forward? Why am I not progressing? Why am I still stuck? We're always waiting for our time, which then leads to impatience when our time comes after someone else's. Well, I would like to remind you, and this is something that God's really taught me over the past year, is that our time is never as good as God's time. God's timing is always right on time. Never late, never early, but right on time, right when we need him. And so, again, that patience, that lack of patience, is because we're depending so much on what we think is the time frame, what we think is right. What do we know? You hear me say in the intro every single episode that we don't know what's going to come tomorrow. We have no idea what God has in our path. He does. So why do we let ourselves become impatient when it's not progressing the way that we think it should? Because it's right on his timetable. We're moving along exactly as we should be. And I think that's something that if you haven't considered before, I encourage you to do so. If it's something you have and kind of ignored, revisit it, pray about it, journal about it. Because this is something that, again, as I was preparing this episode, there's a couple different things in my life right now that this one really, really kind of convicted me. I've seen, family. I've seen just people around me kind of doing things that I want to do. Being in positions that I want to be in. And it's hard. It's hard. And sometimes it's, I feel like we're hard on ourselves. We're disappointed in ourselves. But at the end of the day, we have to understand and we have to have faith in the fact that God has a plan for us. And I know that's cliche, but it's so full of truth. That God's plan is going to be perfectly timed. And so what we need to do is avoid being jealous of the progress of others, because that's going to lead to a loss of patience and a gain of jealousy and arrogance. And the third and final point is kind of the whole, message for this episode. And that's that we all want the blessing, but don't want the journey. And I know that just spoke to somebody because it spoke to me while I was writing it. You know how many times I've wanted something, I've prayed about it, and I've felt in my soul and my heart that God said, you know what, you're going to get there. But I didn't want to go through whatever I had to get there. I just wanted the result. I just wanted the reward. A lot of our impatience grows because we want the end result, the reward or progress of a situation, but we don't want to do what it takes to get there. Think about it. A lot of us want to be in the best shape of our lives, but we don't want to take the time to go to the gym. We want good grades. We want a 4.0, but we're not willing to put in as much work as we know we need to. We want to be Christians and we want to go to heaven, but some of us don't want to work on our relationship with God because we're afraid our friends might not think it's cool. We want the rewards of God, but we don't want the relationship. We want the good grades, but we don't want to spend time studying because we'd much rather be out doing other things. We want to have the best physical fitness of our entire lives, but we don't want to spend an hour in the gym every day because we want to sit and watch Netflix. We want to start our business, but we aren't willing to be broke for a year. When I started this podcast, I knew that I may not have anybody listen. I knew that this may take a while to grow. And I also knew that God had opened this door, and I prayed and prayed before I started it, and I knew it was something that was an opportunity I could not skip out on. And granted, I've been at it for almost 2 months at this point. Actually, it is 2 months. Wow. Anyways, I've been at it for 2 months, and I'm still, if I'm being honest, the numbers, the statistics, the number of people listening, it's gone down a little bit. And it's hard for me to not be discouraged and be like, God, see, I knew I shouldn't have. But I remember that when I got into this and when I started this, I was prepared to have nobody listening. And with that being said, I have a big announcement that I want to share in regards to next Monday's episode. I've been blessed enough, and God has opened a door for a brand partnership with a pretty well-known brand who has reached out to me and wanted to partner up for an episode of the podcast. And I'm not going to give it away now, but I'm saying that to demonstrate that God's going to move in your situation, and he's going to show up bigger and better than you ever could have expected, but it may not be on your time, and I can almost promise you it's not going to look exactly how you want it to. You know, I could go on and on about, well, we want to do this, but don't want to do this. We want this, but we're not willing to do this. I mean, the list goes on and on. But the point is, at some point or another, we've lost patience in the process of pursuing something. And if you get anything out of this episode, I want you to get this. And it's 5 words. Be patient in the process. Enjoy the grind, treasure the journey, but most importantly, wait for God and have faith that he will come through in your situation in a way that you can never imagine, and hold true to the fact that he's going to show up right on time. And some of you may not know where to begin the pursuit of your goals. You may not know which goals you even want to pursue. You know, sometimes we struggle to even begin pursuing our goals because we know that we struggle with patience. For those of you that say, Jeff, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure if I can start. What does that look like for me? And I truly just encourage you to start with today. Some of you may not know exactly what you want to do, but that's okay. Take today and start thinking about it. Don't worry about the yesterday and whatever happened, and maybe you failed, maybe you didn't make progress. That's okay. And don't worry about tomorrow, worrying about, oh, if I don't reach this goal, I messed up. No. Start with today, make a plan, lean on the Lord, and watch him work. I can't wait to talk to you guys next Monday. I have a really cool topic I'm excited to dive into, and I'm excited to share my brand partnership. I look forward to it. Everybody have a great week. Stay safe and stay healthy.